Damn, that was cold. But not as cold as the Predator when he rips your spine out. Aliens vs. Predator is a 2010 first-person shooter video game developed by Rebellion Developments, the team behind the 1994 Atari Jaguar game. In the game, a Weyland-Yutani research team discovers an ancient predator pyramid and hopes to unlock the advanced technology while studying the resident aliens. However, when the aliens escape, a unit of the United States Colonial Marines responds to neutralize the threat, while the Predator race also send 3 of their members to investigate. In December 2008, a Kotaku article stated that Sega had announced that an Alien vs. Predator video game was being developed. This meant that Sega's other then upcoming game, Aliens Colonial Marines, who could forget, would be pushed back so Aliens vs. Predator could be released first. Honestly, that was a great decision considering the poor turnout for that project, and I fear it may have tainted AVP's reception if it had released after Colonial Marines. AVP 2010 is a slightly overlooked and somewhat forgotten entry into the AVP series. Rebellion made the first AVP in 1999 that most people know about, but also the aforementioned 1994 Jaguar game. Monolith Productions, the now defunct dev team known for Blood, Fear, and the Middle-earth games Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, would make the follow-up AVP 2 in 2003. Rebellion has cut itself out a cult following over the years for their very successful Sniper Elite series. But prior to that, they worked on games like AVP, Judge Dredd vs. Death, and more recently, they made a return to the FPS scene with the magnificent Atomfall. AVP 2010 was even subject to a ban in Australia, where the original version of the game was refused classification because of the explicit, close-up violence shown in the first-person perspective, which includes decapitation, dismemberment, and graphic impalement, the stuff we all love. The Australian Classification Board, which did not have an R18+ rating for video games at the time, deemed the content too strong for the MA15+ rating. When I asked Jason Kingsley, the CEO of Rebellion, whether or not the finishers posed an issue with the ESRB, he stated that they always do, but they always intended the game to be made for grown-ups, which mirrors Rebellion and Sega's statement at the time. They were disappointed, but understood the law at the time. They refused to release a sanitized version, as they wanted to remain true to the source material and the adult nature of the game. The game was eventually appealed, ultimately approved with a new rating that was closer to the original game's content. Sega's spokesperson stated that the board's decision was a big win for Australian gamers, because the game was released in its original entirety without any alterations. Australia still has issues with banning 90% of games with violence to this very day. They may have won the battle back then, but the war is far from over. Now let's dive into the AVP Jaguar game and AVP 1999/2000 before we look into what made the 2010 game so special.
Introducing Alien vs. Predator for the 64-bit Atari Jaguar. You might not want to play it alone.
Ah! Mom.
According to James Hampton, the project originally began as a corridor-based shooter for Atari Lynx that was under development by British studio Images Software, featuring characters and locations in reference to Dark Horse Comics' Alien vs. Predator comic book series. Images Software created a demo that featured the Predator and a human of the Colonial Marines, but lacked the alien as a playable character. However, the game was put on hold and later cancelled as Atari focused its resources on the Jaguar. Work on the project restarted as Atari was ramping up production of games for the Jaguar, initially intended to be a port of the beat-em-up game of the same name, developed by Jiruden for SNES, but Hampton and Rebellion both felt it did not represent the franchise's universe and characters properly. Hampton then submitted a retooled design proposal to 20th Century Fox and Activision, which labeled it as a first-person shooter with the ability to play either of the 3 characters without elements from the comic book series. The decision of 3 playable characters was an idea from the Kingsley brothers. Atari also shared with Rebellion the original design documents from the Lynx version, along with concepts by their internal team. Hampton acknowledged Wolfenstein 3D and Doom as the game's influences, due to him and Atari encouraging the staff to play similar titles. Alien vs. Predator initially made use of hand-drawn graphics, but were deemed not realistic enough by the Kingsley brothers, opting instead to use tile panels for the texture-mapped graphics and model figures for sprites. The idea of photographing built models came from both Wilson and Harrison Banfield. Jeffrey Gattrell and Keone Los Banos were also responsible for the artwork. The game was presented with digitized graphics on a rudimentary 3D environment. The plot takes place in a simulation depicting the fall of the Golgotha training base camp. An unknown vessel approaches the base and is retrieved for further examination. The camp is quickly overrun by aliens as soon as the vessel is boarded, leading to the evacuation of civilians, recruits, and personnel from the area. The remaining Colonial Marines go into defensive positions in an attempt to protect the base from xenomorphs. While sending an emergency distress signal requesting backup, a Predator ship looms over the horizon for their home planet, preparing itself to board the station after receiving the signal, seizing the opportunity to hunt down xenomorphs. Lance Lewis recalled the Atari staff were given freedom and strived to portray a non-linear feel, designing each level for all 3 campaigns to allow the player to finish the game in various ways. The Colonial Marine is named after Lewis. The staff was also encouraged to watch the movies for reference. The game runs between 10 and 15 frames per second, with in-game visuals being displayed at a 16-bit color format, while cutscenes and static screens are rendered at a 24-bit color format. The Jaguar's Blitter and GPU processors are used to draw surfaces and handle calculations respectively. The Alien's AI, dubbed Alien Chess, was written by Whitaker, and its function is to activate enemies when the player approaches them. Alex Quarmby, James Grunke, Michael Stevens, Nathan Benholt, Paul Foster, Tim Gillen, and Will Davis were in charge of the game's music and sound effects. Many of the sound effects and voice samples in Alien vs. Predator were provided by Atari's audio department, in addition to films from the Alien and Predator franchises. AVP Jaguar really reminds me of a better version of the 1995 Sega Saturn Warhammer 40k Space Hulk game, Space Hulk: Vengeance of the Blood Angels. As for the 1999 or 2000 Gold Edition AVP title, IGN praised the game for allowing players to play 3 different characters, each with a unique gameplay element, and for being fun and terrifying at the same time. GamePro cited the lack of a save feature as a major flaw. That was later fixed with the Gold Edition, but praised the splendid graphics, perfect sound effects, multiple vision modes, and ambience, and citing it as the most frightening game since Half-Life. The storylines of the 3-player characters are independent of one another, unlike AVP 2010. As an alien, the player must defend the alien hive from human marines, then stow away on an evacuating spacecraft and reach the marine ship, the Ferrarco. When playing as the Colonial Marine, the player begins at a research station on LV-426, built to study the derelict spacecraft where the Nostromo crew first encountered the alien eggs in the film Alien. The Predator character's storyline visits 3 different planets, beginning with the player hunting Marines in order to recover a captured Predator ship and its occupant from a human military base. The mission briefings in the original version of the game were acted by professional actors. However, the development team felt that their acting didn't provide the sense of urgency required. New versions of the briefings were made for the Gold Edition, featuring members of the team, and is some of the cheesiest stuff you'll ever see.
Wake up, Private! You're in some serious shit! We're bugging out now! Level 3 doors are already locked, so get your ass to the comms room and I'll brief you from there.
Now on to the main event. AVP 2010 was probably my first ever Rebellion game, and a game that always stuck out to me because I loved the original AVP film so much. And, well, there's not many games out there where you can play as the Predator, especially not in 2010. I had no idea at the time that AVP Classic or Predator Concrete Jungle even existed. AVP 2010 is a really brutal and fun game. It has equal parts horror as it does action spectacle. Much like the previous iterations in the series, you can pick between any of the 3 campaigns to play in any order: the Marine, Predator, and Alien perspectives of this overlapping narrative. I think the best way to go about this is to talk about each campaign on its own, and then talk about what I like about the game at the end. So let's check on Rookie and see what he's up to.
We're on express elevator to hell, going down.
The Marines' fight for survival starts out above the planet with 2 Marine squads on separate ships, one of which is identified as the USS Marlowe. When the Predator's ship decloaks and destroys the Marlowe, Major Van Zant directs the surviving shuttle to land. The player Marine, dubbed Rookie, is knocked out during the drop and regains consciousness in the heart of the chaos itself. The Marine campaign is the real grit of this experience. It's the start of the journey canonically. Rookie's journey through BG-386 is a very horror-centric one. It's dark, creepy, and genuinely unnerving throughout. The beeps of the radar and the sounds of the guns straight from the films hit just right, and also gives you a minor panic attack. The levels are experienced their true potential from the seemingly powerless Marine perspective. You get all the intensity of the fights with both the Xenos and the Predator. There's only a single Predator you encounter and eventually fight, unlike in the Alien campaign where you face off with 2 of them, but we'll get to that in a bit. You forget how weak you're supposed to be once you have the beast of a double-barreled semi-auto shotgun and the sniper that can pick off Xenos lurking up ahead with a single headshot. Not to mention the grenade launcher attachment to the pulse rifle will absolutely melt every boss fight in the game. The Predator, the Queen, the Praetorians, and even Weyland himself. I've seen some people say that the smart gun doesn't work well at a distance and just feels weak. And I couldn't disagree more. This thing absolutely shreds Xenos at a distance and in close quarters. Just take a look.
Incoming!
Be careful.
It's right here! Yay! Yay!
That doesn't mean it ceases to scare you. There's still plenty of set pieces and darkness to keep you on your toes. Rookie can heal himself with health stems, and I found them to be fairly abundant in my travels. I also really enjoy the audio logs and what they add to the world as a whole.
On your side. My name is Carl Bishop Weyland, and this is my facility. All you have to do is leave, and I give you my word you will not be pursued. At least, not by any of my personnel.
But also Weyland and what he's doing on the planet. Honestly, by the end, Rookie could be the protagonist of his own solo game and get a cool nickname or some shit. I'd love to see AVP get a sequel one day. I know this game is known for being relatively short, but the Marine campaign is around 4 to 6 hours. So not bad. Now let's take a look at Act 2 of this multi-part campaign. It's time for number 6.
Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
The Xeno birth begins in a research facility where 2 humans are being kept as prisoners. As they awake, chest bursters erupt from their bodies, killing them. As scientists enter the room to collect the specimens, they find specimen 6 missing. The missing chest burster then emerges from the second victim's mouth, forcing head scientist Dr. Groves to gas the room, killing the other scientists and subduing the chestburster. However, Mr. Weyland prevents the creature's death as he's impressed with its cunning and tells Groves to transfer it to a special program, giving it the codename 6. 6 goes through a few test trials and eventually escapes the research facility at the behest of the Queen through the hive mind-like communication the Xenos are shown to have.
Escape is not an option for you, however. Please, don't try it again.
What's happening?
Weyland's finally going to do it.
Excuse me.
The restraints. The xenomorph. Gross! Fucking bastard!
The Alien campaign is by far the shortest in the entire game. The levels are faster and simpler. There's a lot of sneaking around, harvesting, or eliminating people. You're fairly weak, but you're very fast, and you can regenerate health over time. Fire, a sentry turret, or multiple Marines will absolutely melt your health. You have to be the cunning and intelligent apex predator we know from the films. You scurry around in vents and on the walls, taking out enemies one by one. It can certainly be a bit disorienting for those who get motion sickness, but not as intense as AVP Classic. As long as you're not overwhelmed, everyone goes down pretty easily. The only real boss fight in the Alien campaign is with two Predators in the ancient arena with some help from another Xeno. And right after, a fight with an elite Predator who you harvest and make into the Predalien, who you'll face off against in the Predator campaign. Both fights can be pretty challenging if you don't use your speed and agility to your advantage. The Alien campaign ends with you being taken off-world and becoming the next Queen Alien. All these campaigns have really cool cliffhangers that could lead to a really badass sequel one day. Let's move on over to the final act of this multi-layered campaign and drop into the fishnets of Dark on his retrieval mission.
Come on, motherfucker!
Want to kill me?
Let's dance!
The Predator hunt begins in the jungles of a Predator planet, where a young blood proves himself worthy of being called an elite. Once the trials are complete, the young Predator, Dark, is dispatched with a group in order to investigate a distress call sent by a young blood hunting party on another planet, BG-386. After dispatching Marine flagship the Marlow, Dark locates the dead Youngbloods and sets their bracers to self-destruct before making trophies of the Marines for desecrating their sacred hunting grounds. Along the way, he obtains several new weapons to assist him, such as proximity mines, a smart disc, and an ancestral combi stick. The only fun thing to use is the combi stick, as a one-hit javelin, and the classic shoulder-mounted plasma caster. The mines and smart disc are fun to goof around with, but serve very little purpose in the heat of battle. As the Predator Dark, you're doing a bit of both previous campaigns. You're traversing locations, using a bit of stealth and full frontal assault. You face off against the Marines, synths, and Xenos, oftentimes at the same time. Being the monkey in the middle of these altercations is pretty entertaining. Playing as the Predator is a pure power fantasy. You can tank a lot of damage before needing to heal, and you can carry around healing stems similar to the Marine. But you also have dual wrist blades for maximum damage. You rip heads off to use for opening doors, impale people on your wrist blades, and just absolutely demolish everything that stands in your way, as it should be. You jump around like a jungle Batman, but sadly you can't snare people on trees or anything like that. Predator campaign is longer than the Aliens, but still not quite the length of the Marines. It's a nice medium. Nobody wants to play the same levels that damn much, no matter if they change little things or not. That's why I think having the Alien and Predator campaigns be shorter helps take the edge off of the repeat levels. I'm not going to say that you'll never die as Dark, but it's going to be tough. You're a force of nature, and can go toe-to-toe with almost anything fairly easily. The biggest challenge you'll encounter is the Predalien fight near the end. The best thing to do is just keep your distance and spam the plasma caster, and wait for the finish. It is fun cloaking and luring NPCs away from their squad and picking them off one by one. It's cool to see your cloak go down when you touch water, or if you move too fast it fades in and out a bit. You can collect the Yautja equivalent of dog tags if you care, but much like the Royal Jelly or whatever in the Alien campaign, it serves no real purpose, unlike the audio logs of the Marine campaign, which adds to the world and lore. Predator is the most fun to play because I absolutely love the Predator films, and the original one is one of my all-time favorites. Predator ends it all with a final climactic battle with the Predalien and a nuke destroying everything, just like in the 2004 film. It looks like by the end, Dark finds the alien homeworld, potentially, and it sets up a sequel we never got, but here's to hoping. AVP 2010 may have rehashed levels with little iteration throughout, but it did offer up a fun and memorable campaign. If it's not remembered for the overarching narrative reminiscent of the 2004 film, it's definitely remembered for the Marine campaign that some would say surpassed Colonial Marines. The unique look at the life of the Xenomorph 6 and future Queen, or the pure power fantasy of being the Predator Dark on his ancestral journey. When I asked Jason Kingsley a few questions, he said it perfectly. Nobody had ever done anything like it before, so we were innovating as we went. And they had to design 3 different control systems and gameplay elements, making the bad guy the good guy. Remember, the Predators were just a big bad guy before we swapped the perspectives in our games. I couldn't agree more with Jason. Both AVP Classic and 2010 innovated quite a bit on the way these stories were typically told, and added their own twists on the multi-franchise mashup that is Aliens vs. Predator. The Predator may have been the most fun power fantasy experience for me, and the Alien was a cool and different experience, but the Marine campaign was what shined the brightest in this game. So much love and passion was put into that campaign and the game as a whole. It shows all the best details, and every bit of depth and detail they added into the environments and the lighting. AVP 2010 has always been a game I've looked back on and wondered why has it been so overlooked over the years and never got the sequel it deserved after quite a bit of success. Even the multiplayer is still played by some to this day and remembered fondly. I'm happy to see Rebellion return to the first person, and I hope maybe they'll revisit the AVP franchise again one day. With the success of Alien Earth and Trachtenberg's Predator revival trilogy, anything's possible at this point. I mean, Alien Earth led to a Far Cry TV series being greenlit, so let's be positive and hope we see more. One AVP title I didn't really touch on, but has been added to my wish list is the AVP arcade beat-em-up game. Just look at this. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. If you're so inclined, leave a comment down below on your thoughts around AVP 2010 or anything AVP, Alien, or Predator. I want to thank all of my subscribers for sticking around. I want to thank Midnight Medium, Osh, and Melancholy Geek as always for the continued support over on Patreon. And if you'd like to support the channel further, go join the Cult of the Forge. I thank you all, and as always, the Forge is calling and I must answer. I'll see you all when the next video has been forged.